This is Resident Evil Requiem. And I'll be honest with you, for the first few hours, this thing is not just a video game. It's a professionally engineered panic attack. You creep around a rotting medical hellhole in the dark, wondering not if something is going to grab you, but from which bloody direction. I clenched muscles I didn't even know I had, and even in some places, a little bit of wee came out. It starts off feeling very much like Alan Wake 2. Slow, oppressive, quiet. The sort of atmosphere which even a flickering light feels like it's judging you. You play as Grace Ashcroft, and yes, she is genuinely an excellent character. She's well acted, and her backstory is intriguing. We learn this piece by piece, while the game does everything in its power to make you feel small, underarmed, and deeply, deeply unwelcome. Grace is not a superhero. She's underpowered, undersupplied, and constantly on the verge of hyperventilating, which, frankly, makes her the most believable person Resident Evil has ever produced in 20 years. You're sneaking, you're hiding, you're throwing bottles like a nervous raccoon. There's barely any ammo, and your pockets are the size of a postage stamp, and every corridor looks like it was designed by a sadistic locksmith with a fetish for locked doors. It's brilliant! Your gun feels like a last resort. Every shot is loud, messy, terrifying. Zombies don't politely fall over, they come apart. Faces peel off like onions, eyeballs dangling, and all of it just stays there, smeared across a wall, like modern art for people who've lost their minds. You even get to harvest blood from the floor to craft gear. Yes! You hoover up puddles of zombie soup and turn it into medical supplies. I hope the NHS is taking notes. The stealth kills are glorious too. Jam a chemical injector into an unsuspecting monster and watch it inflate and detonate like a meat balloon at a children's party from hell. And crucially, you're encouraged to destroy bodies properly, because these zombies have a deeply annoying habit of coming back, more often than a Skyrim remaster. And what really sells it is the behaviour of the undead. They're not just shuffling furniture anymore. They flick switches, they mutter to themselves, and they even stop to eat their old friends. Which is far more disturbing than any amount of howling monster theatrics. But then, later, something extraordinary happens. The game stops trying to murder your nerves, and instead decides to murder absolutely everything else! Because in stomps Leon S. Kennedy, and the tone changes so violently, it's like someone swapped your horror film for a Michael Bay outtake, which suddenly the game becomes Resident Evil 4 on steroids. Actually, no, it goes past that. It edges dangerously close to Dead Rising levels of lunacy. He has shotguns, sniper rifles, hatchet. He can even pick up a fire axe from the floor and casually lob it at someone's skull like he's tidying up the garden. At one point, he even uses a chainsaw. A chainsaw! This is no longer horror survival. This is pest control. And it's wonderfully, gloriously violent. Let's not mention Leon's trusty pistol Requiem that acts more like a railgun than a pistol. It literally explodes zombies' heads in one hit. Leon delivers deadpan one-liners like a middle-aged man who completely emotionally detached from the concept of consequences. There is no fear here, only momentum. You are no longer the hunted, you are the problem. There's slickness in Leo's combat that's closer to a John Wick simulator than a horror game. And if you've ever loved a more action-heavy side of Resident Evil, you'll be grinning like an idiot. He even has his own upgrade economy. Kill things, collect currency, buy bigger, louder, angrier things to kill more things. And the boss fights? Huge, spectacular, filthy. Some are new, some are clever reimagines, and one midway encounter does something genuinely nasty. When you shoot the monster's weak points, it sprays infection that mutates all enemies around it, so by attacking the boss, you make the room worse, which is evil and excellent. Here's the problem though, the balance. This game has two very different halves. The first half, with Grace, is slow, meticulous, nerve-shedding survival horror The second half, with Leon, is an extended testosterone-fueled massacre, complete with set pieces that feels closer to Call of Duty than haunting hospitals. It's fun. Immensely fun. But after several hours of near constant Leon carnage, you do miss the fear, you miss the vulnerability, you miss being afraid of opening the doors. It's like ordering a whiskey and coke. You have the whiskey first, and then, 3 hours later, someone throws a glass of coke at your head. And both are good, they're just not mixed. Oddly, there's no dedicated post-game carnage mode either, no mercenary-style playground, which feels like a spectacular missed opportunity when you've built a character this absurdly is good at dismembering things, which is baffling, because if you give me a chainsaw-wielding Leon, I'm not going to use him responsibly. Still, the story itself is strong. There are proper twists, there's some surprising, touching character work around Grace's past, and there is a lot of lovingly nasty world building for long-time fans, including one returning location that I will mention in the spoiler section, which will make veteran players whisper quietly, "Oh, you beautiful bastards," under their breath. So, what is Resident Evil Requiem really? Well, it's a Frankenstein experiment. One half is a beautifully crafted survival horror nightmare, and the other half is a spectacular, overarmed, wisecracking action slaughterfest. Sometimes the stitching shows, but when it works, you're creeping through a pitch-black corridor one moment and detonating an entire zombie platoon the next. It's irresistibly entertaining. Not perfectly balanced, not subtle, but utterly, confidently, gloriously Resident Evil. In the end, I've decided to give Resident Evil Requiem a very, very solid 9 out of 10. Right, now we're trundling at great speed into the spoiler zones, so if you haven't finished the game yet, or possess even a shred of self-control, stop watching now. But before you scarper, like a man who's just parked in Jack Baker's back garden, do the usual modern ritual. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell as it was Victor Gideon himself. And also head over to our Twitch channel for some good old-fashioned live streaming fun. Good. Now the grown-ups can continue. Warning! Heavy spoilers ahead. You've been warned. The game opens up with Grace poking around the Wrenwood Hotel. And my word, what a place. It's burnt out, mouldy Victorian horror of a building. The sort of hotel where you fully expect the minibar to contain either human organs or a curse. Very quickly, you realise it isn't just another creepy level. Oh no, Grace has a history here because this is the place where her mother was murdered. Subtle. The atmosphere is utterly rancid, in the best possible way. Smoke-scarred hallways, dripping ceilings, half-collapsed rooms, and that consistent, dreadful feeling that something unspeakable is standing just behind you, patiently waiting to turn around. Exploring the hotel and piecing together what actually happened here is properly gripping. I was genuinely leaning forward in my seat, wondering which flavour of a nightmare the game was about to serve me next. And then we meet him, Victor Gideon. And honestly, this man looks like what would happen if a deranged circus magician became a biochemist and lost a fight with a lawnmower. Long, filthy hair, a face that would appear to have been designed by spite, and a performance from a voice actor that absolutely nails that silky, unhinged, I enjoy this, far too much energy. Nothing about him says friendly, which is fortunate, because he immediately kidnaps Grace and whisks her away to the Rhode Island Care Centre. Naturally. This is the real meat of the first act, and mechanically, it plays very much like the modern entries in the series. You're dumped into a vast, creaking, deeply unsettling hospital. You need 3 mysterious cube things, which are, of course, keys to unlock the only exit. There are 3 wings, 3 different themes, 3 entirely different ways for the game to ruin your evening. Every wing is stuffed with puzzles, hidden routes, locked doors, and sudden moments of "Oh my god, what the hell is that thing?" As a horror setting, the care centre is superb, a perfect, rotten little playground. The enemies, however, are not. You get shambling corpses. If you don't deal with them properly, mutate into enormous, furious disasters. There's a demonic chef. There's a gigantic globby thing. And all of them are spectacularly difficult to put down. You spend most of this section creeping around beautifully detailed, horribly old-fashioned hospital corridors with one question rattling around your head. Apart from escape. And that question is, what is the deal with Emily? A little girl who Grace finds locked in an isolation cell. Because in this series, whenever you meet a mysterious child who is locked in an isolation cell, you should immediately become nervous. After rescuing Emily and finally collecting 3 cubes, she is, of course, promptly kidnapped by that thing. And while Grace is trying to pursue her, in storms Leon like a one-man apocalypse. He proceeds to clear the place out in a storm of gunfire, turning monsters you could barely survive earlier into chunky wallpaper. And when you finally retake control of Grace when she gets back to the main room, it is deeply, profoundly satisfying to see the entire area just gone. It's pure catharsis! Once you escape the main building, you arrive at a courtyard and fail to leave in a helicopter because no one ever leaves in a helicopter. After an explosive showdown with something large and extremely angry, that thing, Grace is kidnapped. Again, this time by Gideon and Zeno, the secondary antagonist. Leon naturally gets the rescue job, and it should surprise absolutely no one where they should take her. Raccoon City, or what's left of it. And honestly, this reveal is fantastic. The nostalgia hits immediately, seeing the ruined, nuked cityscape drowning in dust and darkness, with Umbrella's logo still plastered everywhere like some corporate ghost. It's brilliant! When you arrive, you're dropped in a semi-open district and told to collect 3 parts of a detonator so you can blast your way into the exclusion zone. The atmosphere here is superb, dark, gritty, dry, dead. And here are some absolute highlights. Climbing up a collapsed skyscraper that instantly brought back memories of The Last of Us. Fighting undead soldiers on the rooftop, and then realising that you can commandeer an artillery gun that just simply erases them all in a few hits. And then there's the giant spider boss, and if you have arachnophobia, this is not a level. This is a medical emergency. Once the gates are blown, you're launched straight into a glorious, stupid, high-speed motorcycle chase with Gideon before screeching into the next location. The Raccoon City Police Department. And yes, it is exactly as nostalgic as you hoped. Walking the same corridors Leon once walked, seeing the same rooms, the same puzzles, the same spaces, the same layout, albeit in a considerably worse state of repair. The developers have gone to absurd lengths to recreate it properly. And then, as if the nostalgia wasn't already milked hard enough, you even get a boss fight with Mr. X. Honestly. Need I say more? The penultimate area drops you into a colossal chasm carved into the middle of the city. Apparently, it's an old subway system. The trains will not be running there ever again. Let's put it that way. Here, you fight a brand new enemy type, which turns out to be a gigantic plant. It's fine, it works, but compared to the rest of the bosses in the game, it's easily one of the weaker encounters. And finally, the laboratory. Yes, I know, it's a Resident Evil game, so of course there's a laboratory, but while the area is still good, and the story absolutely comes together here, it never quite reaches the same level of tension or atmosphere as the hotel, the hospital, or the ruins of Raccoon City. That said, the final choice in that laboratory is excellent. There's genuinely a big twist, which I am not going to spoil even here. And the final boss, which I also won't spoil because it's part of that twist, is wonderfully old school in the best possible way. So, Resident Evil Requiem is a cracking entry of the series. It blends the oppressive, nerve-shredding survival horror of the recent games with properly unhinged, explosive action sequences, and somehow manages to make both sides nearly work. It's dark, it's brutal, it's ridiculous, and I love it. You should absolutely give it a try. If you enjoyed our review of Resident Evil Requiem, please do consider giving us a like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, nip over to Twitch and give us a wee follow there. All the links are down below in the description. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.